Alrighty, hello everyone. I am Mivi. I am a DJ. I'm also a huge nerd, and I am here to show you how to make electronic dance music. So, if you don't know, it's a bit obvious. I do make electronic dance music. I produce my own songs. I mix. I master, and I even sing sometimes. So today I'm just gonna show you how do you make electronic dance music? How do you produce? What goes into creating sounds, what goes into the whole Meviverse. So let me show you how to produce electronic dance music. So before we get started, the genre electronic dance music is a very big genre. So there are many different types of genres. Oh, I got my notification bell. Oh yeah, of course. Hello, my name is last name 37. I love that. I literally love that username. Hello, of course. Yeah, of course. I'm so glad that you turned on those notifs. And yeah, just welcome, vibe out, and yeah, just chillax. It's gonna be low key. Yeah, low key teaching you how to make EDM. So there's many different kinds of EDM. Dubstep is EDM. House music is EDM. Dubstep is not house music. So if you say I'm gonna make EDM and somebody makes house music, it's a bit vague. So there's a lot of things you can do with that. But that's the good thing. There is a lot of things you can do with it. You can put elements of country music into EDM. You can put elements of hip hop into EDM. You can put elements of pop. You can put elements of other subgenres into an EDM song. So that's the beauty about it. Like, you can literally do so much. So I really want to come in just to teach you the basics, because if I try to teach you how do I make one specific style of EDM, it's very stifling, and I feel like that's kind of why beginners give up in the first place, because they just feel stifled and they think, if I'm not good at producing this one genre, can I produce? I think you can. I definitely think you can. You just probably need to learn not necessarily how do I make music in one way, but how do I get the skills so I can make music the way I want to, if that makes any sense. So feel free to spam the chat, feel free to say hi, put lots of 6-7s into the chat. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there. Hello, Redacted VR. We are just about to get in there. Hey, FIFA vids on 112, hello. Just feel free to spam the chat and we're gonna get into it. So, let me actually bring this a little bit closer so you can see. When you make music, you like to use, do you snore when you sleep? Me, no, but I do have loved ones who do that. So when you're making electronic dance music, we like to use a program called a DAW. That stands for Digital Audio Workstation. Digital audio workstations, there are many different kinds, but I like to use a program called FL Studio. And it is my favorite because it is very versatile and it is very easy for beginners to navigate. It feels very professional. So let's start with the basics. When we start with making a song, we like to start with sounds. And when you are starting with a sound, it can be a bit complicated because there are many different kinds of sounds. However, if you're working with a synthesizer, we like to think of sounds that come in waves. Sound is like a wave, like this. The process of turning waves into sounds, that's called modular synthesis, because we like to use synthesizers. I have one right here. This one is called Vital. It is also free, so if you want to go ahead and download and follow along, that is very cool. It's very cool and you can totally do it. So when we are making with sounds, let's start. There are many shapes a wave can come in, but there are mainly 4 different kinds of shapes. These are known as the basic shapes. So you can have a sine wave. Hold up, is this turned on? Okay. This is a sine wave. Yeah, it's very low, it goes and it looks like your typical, like up and down, up and down. Then the next shape you have is called a triangle wave. kind of hear it has a little bit more buzz, but it's still very low in a sense. A little bit more harmonics. The one that has the most harmonics is called a sawtooth. This one has lots of frequencies, lots of harmonics, and it's very harsh. And the other main sound, the other main shape of waves we have is called a square wave. So it sounds similar to a sawtooth, but it kind of feels a little bit flat. Let me go again. Here is a sawtooth, and here is a square. You kind of hear the difference. The square actually sounds a little bit more electro-like. So there are many different things you can do. Squid Games, period. So all sounds come in waves, and all waves can either be a sine, a square, a sawtooth, or a triangle. And we can use these waves to combine and form many different sounds. So the process of combining waves, we call that additive synthesis. So we add. Let's hear a song. We could hear a song. I can also produce a song with you. Let's do that. So first we're going to start with the sound. Let's do something a little bit simple. We're going to start with the sine wave. And then I also want to add one more onto that. So when we're playing both a sine wave and a triangle wave, that's called additive synthesis. Can you hear that? Right. Now, this on its own, that's not really gonna make much. So we gotta make sure that the sound can move. That's when we get something called an envelope. An envelope makes sounds move. And sounds can move in many ways. So one way we can make a sound move is a bit more like on the spot. We can use ADSR, hola, ADSR to make a sound. That stands for attack, decay, sustain, release. Let me make a basic one. So attack is basically, when is the sound gonna hit? You can either have a short attack, like this, very short, hold up, dang. We can either have a short sound, that sounds very plucky, or you can have a long attack. See the difference? One goes, woo. This one builds up over time. So I'm thinking when I'm making this sound, I'm gonna have it be more pluck-like. So that means I want the attack to be very short. That's A and ADSR. The D stands for decay. When will the sound decrease? Sound is eventually going to decrease, but when will it do that? You can either have it decrease right away, which kind of sounds boring, or you can have a long decrease, which eventually goes down over time. Let me give it something in the middle. That's D. Now S and ADSR stands for sustain. So sustain is, well, it's going to decrease over time, obviously, but can we hold it there for a second? So you can either have a long sustain, it's gonna stay there for a while, or you can have a short sustain. It's literally gonna go away. I want something in the middle. We're almost done. And then we have one more element, release. Sound is gonna go away eventually. How is it gonna go away? It can either go away right away, not saying a goodbye, a very Irish goodbye, or it can pull off a very Midwestern goodbye and go. You can kind of hear it echoes out. Well, I kind of want an echo, but not too much of an echo. Let's try this. That sounds great. Now, I do think it sounds a bit too harsh. Let me add in a filter. So a filter will basically cut out certain parts of a song, of a sound. You can either cut out the high frequencies, You can either cut out the high frequencies, or it can cut out all the low ones. Now, it will be very static and odd to hear it on its own. So let me go ahead and try something. If I put the decay with the filter, that means it's going to get a little bit of the high frequencies before coming back down. So it's gonna just take a little bit, be kind of greedy. That's how I get all these funny sounds. Jeez, what's going on up there? Anyways, I think all of this sounds nice. I won't get into the nitty gritty. So let me add in a little bit of something fun. Sometimes I like to add in effects. I have an effect called chorus. This means it's going to double the sound. It's going to layer the sound like this. I think that's enough for now. It might hurt your head if you hear me yap on all day long about this. So let me go ahead and actually make a pattern with this. Right, how are we feeling? Pretty much. I'm really glad that you're here. Feel free to spam the chat once again. And if you have any questions or you want me to pause, explain something, let me know. I'm more than willing to do so. So yes. All right, now a sound is nothing if there's nothing to actually play. So we're gonna give it a pattern. It can be very tempting when you're a beginner to just do something very fancy, like, that doesn't sound good. And usually if you don't know music theory, it can end up being a bit, well, what's a nice word to say? Unpleasant? Pretty much unpleasant. So let's try this. Let's do a simple pattern. Let's do bum, 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 bum. Something on the offbeat. I like using high notes, and I also like using minor scales. That is also very much music theory, so if you ever want me to explain it, let me know. Let me go ahead and make something. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now what does that sound like? It sounds fine, but there's nothing to it. Let's add something else. Let me move this up a few notes. Let me move this down a few notes. It sounds kind of repetitive. What if I actually doubled the notes? So now there's 8 playing. Maybe actually I put this up a few. I like how it's sort of repetitive. I actually will like to keep this repetitive. It adds some sort of emotion to it. All right, I'm gonna keep this, but it's not gonna stay the same. How about the last bit? We get the set goes down, and the third set goes up. The last bit goes up. So now, with all of that combined, it'll play like this. I like that. What do you guys think? I like that. So I think we should definitely work with this now that we have something like that. If you are producing, I highly recommend that don't try to make an 8-bar loop. What happens is you make an 8-bar loop. It sounds like a drop. It sounds all upbeat. It sounds super duper lively, but then you get stuck. You get stuck on an 8-bar loop. And well, you really like this 8-bar loop, but you can't see out of it. It gives you tunnel vision. So in order to prevent you from getting stuck in an 8-bar loop, I recommend that you kind of take a bit of a different approach. Instead of producing in a circle, broaden out. So that means take one element that you really want in the song, and you're gonna put it throughout the entirety of the song. But you're not gonna keep it there, because then you're gonna delete that in places you don't want to have it. Let me show you how that works. So I got a tool on FL Studio that lets me plant in this pattern pretty much throughout the song, okay? I've got this here. I'm also going to adjust it because I don't like where it landed for some reason. All right, so I have that here. Let's okay, right here, that's gonna be a verse. That's going to be the intro. Over here, I can sing. Then here, I might also wanna sing. So that's in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 24 bars just for the verse. And then right here, we have the build up. And then right here, I'm gonna delete this element because I don't want it to play in the middle of a drop. So I have that, and a drop. And the drop is going to be 16 bars long. So that means that this element is only going to be in the verses. Da 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 da. Okay, but then it's going to disappear because I don't want you to be bored in the whole song. It's going to kind of ruin everything, isn't it? So there we go. It's going to come in the build up, but I also want a long build up. Something that you're gonna just like get away to, you know? Something to like make you feel like you're happy. And then I want to have a variation of that into the drop. So instead of only being 16 bars long, I want the drop to be, the second one, to be 24 bars long. It's gonna be a long drop. And then at the outro, you're only gonna hear 4 bars of the pattern. And then that's it. See how I'm doing it like this? So instead of only thinking, what's gonna sound good in this moment, I'm thinking in terms of the whole song. It's because that way, if I get artist block, I'm not gonna be stuck forever. Usually, if I get stuck on artist block, I only get stuck for a little bit of time because I can see the entire song. I'm not seeing an 8-bar loop. I'm not seeing in the realm of a singular 2-bar beat pattern. I'm seeing beyond the whole scope. That way I don't get stuck. This is really helpful if you're a beginner, and it's also helpful for a good workflow. That way you can easily finish projects, you can easily release songs, and you can just be very creative. So start with one thing, put it where you want it, and then work with that. So now I'm seeing here, I have all these little spots where they're not patterns. There's no patterns in all these little gaps, right? What's gonna go here? How about some drums? Because this is the drop, and in the drop, we like to have kicks and claps. Let's work with that. So I'm thinking, this is very upbeat. I want this to be kind of techno, trance, maybe pop. Let's put all of those together. Let me see how I can work with that. So let's start with techno. Techno uses certain kinds of drums. All right, I'm gonna work drums. I'm gonna use this, and then I'm going to make a 4 on the floor beat. What's 4 on the floor? Well, it's in the name. You have 4 kicks and 1 bar, and it repeats. Have you ever heard a house song? If not, let me show you. All right, so we have our kicks. Let me get rid of this tail because otherwise it's gonna get stuck. And it's going to create lots of dirty sounds you don't like when you're listening. How's everyone's day going? Tell me in the chat. I'd love to know. I'd love to know. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's see. And then, okay. So we got one part. If you can't hear, this is very upbeat. Very upbeat tempo. It's 133 beats per minute. That is the BPM. It is very, very high paced. Let me extend that everywhere. Okay, so far we got this. All right, that's one part of Four on the Floor. What's the other part? Well, you gotta have something that's going to clap in the middle because it's kind of boring just to hear that. So let's do this. Let's add in some claps. I don't really like certain techno claps though. I'm fine with it, but it gets boring. But you know what I have learned? I really, really like using hip hop claps in electronic dance music. I love, love, love using hip hop samples into electronic dance music because it adds texture, if you can see. Let me combine some of this. I like that. Something very soft, and then something very loud. I like that. All right, boom, ka, boom, ka. And then we're gonna add in some variants so you don't get bored. What should we do? Well, I'm hearing one of them is actually a very loud, long one. If you can hear it, adds a tail. Let me add this one in here. So we're gonna have, instead of, there we go. Let's add this throughout the whole song. All right. Now I'm going to extend this. I feel like every song needs something lively, something to keep your attention. You know what does? Hi-hats. I don't like to add in hi-hats right away because where is the thing that's gonna get your attention? Where's the journey? Every song is a journey. Every song is a story. Do you like stories? Do you like watching shows? Do you like watching reels? All of them have a story. If there is nothing unexpected, if there's nothing to surprise you later, it's kind of a boring story. You don't get much. So let me add in something unexpected. The unexpected is going to be a hi-hat. My favorite kind of hi-hats, I love using lo-fi hi-hats because it's unexpected. It adds something fun. Let me use a lo-fi hi-hat. I like using this one. The hi-hats come on the offbeat. I don't know how much you can see. Within every beat, you also have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the third part, 1, 2, 3, you have the hi-hat come in. That's usually what's meant to come on the offbeat. In every beat, you come in a little bit back, usually by the third portion of the beat. Let's try that. Boom, boomka, boomka, boomka. And I will let you hear the whole thing soon. This is really fun. Let me know if you want me to add in anything special. All right? Let's then add in that. Let's add in this. All right, now let's listen to this. Too much in the nitty-gritty. So let's keep it as is, something very simple, and let's extend this to the second drop. It's going to be very similar to second drop, except it adds in more elements of what we did with the hi-hats than just on its own. Boop, there we go. All right, then we can keep on working with this, what we got here. How's your day going? All right, almost done. Don't want anything overlapping because then it makes it muddy. There we go. So then so far we get this. really nice so far, doesn't it? It sounds very, very groovy, very typical house song. Except instead of only using sounds that are meant for house music, we combine sounds that were meant for hip hop and lo-fi. Isn't that pretty cool? I think that's pretty cool. So let's work with this. The second drop is going to be very, very, very boring if we only keep it as what we did in the first one. Let's add in more. Usually what I like to do, there's many, many different kinds of hi-hat patterns. So let's work with that. I don't want to use a lo-fi one though. Actually, I have this trap. I have a trap hi-hat. I like this one. It sounds kind of harsh. So what we can do is, okay. So something comes in every beat. The whole beat. Da, 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 da. But I don't want it to be too much. Let's have it come in when the big clap comes in. Boom. All right. Let's extend this outwards. Like we're extending a hug. I like hugs. I sound like Olaf. Excuse me. I was really obsessed with Frozen when it came out. Goodness gracious. All right. Isn't that cool? I think that's super duper cool. I think it's fine for the first half of the drop. It's not gonna be so fun towards the second portion. We want some excitement. So far, I've been using only one kind of hi-hat. There are so many different kinds of hi-hats, but usually you have a closed hi-hat or you have an open hi-hat. Closed hi-hats sound very tight-knit towards each other. They sound like this. They have very short releases. They're very tight. That is a closed hi-hat. But an open hi-hat has a very longer release. Can you hear that? Versus. So far I've only used a closed hi-hat. Why don't I use an open hi-hat? Why don't you help me choose? Which one should I use? Enter in the comments which hi-hat I should use. I really don't know which one. Actually, all of them are very good. This one sounds very let loose. I'm gonna use this one. This one is from Cymatics. It is called Coma Open Hats. Open hats we usually like to have towards the end, but we don't usually like to have them for too long, so they only come on the first and third part of the beat, and they usually come towards the end as a surprise. Let's try that. Let me get this towards the end. And usually in music production, it is a lot of copy and paste, but strategic, because we like to focus on building a story. You do like to have familiar elements of a story come in, but you can't put that wherever you want. Everything has to come in very strategically. If you don't have it strategically, what happens? The story gets boring, and nobody really stays for a boring story. All right. Now what does that sound like? I think that sounds awesome. I feel like this one's really awesome. And the third part of this one, I don't think I want much, but I think we can work with this. Now, when it comes to building the verses, people have trouble because we tend to overbuild the drops and underbuild the verses. I like to say, carry with you, lead up and then come down. Here's what I mean. I like to, when I'm building out the verses, I start with the second verse because it is usually what comes after. When you're coming down from a drop, you don't want to just cut out the drums. Here's what happens when you cut out the drums. Not bad, but it's like, where's the energy? Where did you go? Like, you just like gave a complete Irish goodbye, and that's fine, but in some instances, but not here, no. You gotta give a proper exit. So what do? The hi-hats are the best place to start. The hi-hats, they're very soft enough and subtle enough to not interfere with the feel of the verse, but they're not so, if I say, they're not so quiet enough that they don't have groove. Just listen to this. You kind of hear what's carrying on from that. So let's carry off with that. I will carry some of the claps, but I don't want it to come right away. Let me have it come like this. There we go. We're carrying on a little bit. Then it kind of exits out. When we have the pattern come back in again, that's when we have a build-up. You can't really distinguish claps from snares, so let me add in the claps back in towards the build-up. The claps will stay for a bit, but they don't stay long. Let me have it disappear towards the last bit. All right, as you can see, I'm carrying some elements and I'm leaving some elements behind. We can also build back from that as well. I am seeing that we have the claps, but the hi-hats don't come in until later. Let me try to work with that. The claps should come in first and foremost, but they also don't stay for long. They're going to leave when the buildup comes, because the buildup is going to introduce the drums. It's going to add in everything back in. Right? Very, very nice. There we go. So that way you can still keep the energy going, but it's not just kind of like out of thin air. I am seeing, however, I want to change my mind on one point. I want this to be a song that's easily mixable when you're on the dance floor. Dance floors, there's usually lots of drums. So let me do this. I'm going to bring the hi-hats in the intro, but they disappear by the verse. No, hold up. Sorry, I put that in the wrong space. This is the intro. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here's where the vocals. See, we kind of started light enough to have it be an intro, but it's still enough for a dance floor. There we go. It's kind of like my style. I want a story, but I don't want something that's out of nowhere. Let's work with this. I'm not gonna go too much, because when you do too much, then it's kind of hard to follow. If there's one thing that I want in my music, I really want music to be lightly produced, because when music is lightly produced, music feels very free and honest. When music feels free and honest, you can connect with people. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to connect with you guys. I'm here to give you a community. And I don't want to overbuild, because that means it signals I have something to hide. Although I wear a mask, I feel more myself when I'm in this mask than I do when I'm out of it, because I don't have much to hide. I don't feel like there's anything to hide, really. So if I overproduce, if I there is a time to go all out, but if I don't go all out when I need to, it can signal there's something to hide. I don't have much to hide. I'm just here as myself. Hence why I don't overproduce, why my sounds are very simple. Leading me to, I'm going to add in a piano. Pianos are very natural. Pianos are very free, and they're pretty much the go-to instrument for producers like me to learn to play. I like to add in piano because it makes it very emotional, but there's so much creativity with it too. I know producers who like to use jazz sounds. One of my friends, I believe his name is Anthony Hoots. He's a producer and he loves to use a saxophone. He loves to use brass instruments. Go ahead and follow Anthony Hoots. He is a great producer. And there's so much freedom he has with using something so signature like that. It gives him a brand. It gives him something to go off of. People can produce with drums. People can use violin and cello. I like to use piano because it's very emotional. So let's go off of that. Piano relies heavily on music theory. I won't get too much into it. I will tell you, if you're going to use a piano, please, first and foremost, stay in the key of your song. If you don't know the key of your song, stick to a certain color of keys, either the white keys or the black keys. For here, I'm gonna stick with the white keys, but I'm not using F. Da, 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 da. Kind of like we're gonna go off of that. Let me build up the bass notes. So here are the bass notes for a very, very simplistic set of chords. I also will be copying, pasting, and I will go up to the 7th note. Yes, this is very much music theory. I'm sorry if you get confused. Da, 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 da. Basically, I am not going to be on the black notes. So I got that. Let me do that again. But this time, I am only going to be using, gonna be putting this in the middle. Da, 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 da. Let's hear how this sounds. I like that. It's just kind of boring. Like, where's the flavor? Where's the energy? Like, where are the spices? I'm brown, for heck's sake. Where is the spice? That's when you have rhythm come in. If you can kind of hear the last pattern. What was the last pattern? Da, 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 da. It kind of added some rhythm. Let me try to add in some of that energy. I'm going to take this note. Let's go da 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 da. Oh, that's F. I can't go to F. Da. I like that. Let me repeat that. Da 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 da. We're going da da. This cuts in. I can't have it cut in. I'm going to borrow you. Let me use you. You are very much, okay. That fills in that. That goes there. Da, 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 da. We use lots of copy and paste because we are building the story. The story has to make sense. If there's no sense, well, you can't follow along with anything. All right, now let's see how this sounds. Do you know TF2? Sounds familiar. I may or may not know Snappy Snappy E4J. Could you explain a little bit more? I think I might be familiar with that though. Please tell me more. I think I might be familiar. Hold up. One of these notes is off. Okay. So, TF2, I'm very curious. I like this. What do you guys think of this? I don't like how high it goes up. So TF2. Let me move this down here. There we go. No, that one too low. I think I might know TF2. If anyone wants to explain. I don't know too much though. See how like the piano kind of carries emotion. I want to give you something to feel. Now I would like to have the piano somewhere over here in the verses so that you can really get in your feel. So let me check to see if it feels right. Gonna okay, so the drop hits a bit too hard, but to answer your question, Snappy Snappy, I may or may not know. I don't know the details about TF2, but I kind of know. If anyone wants to fill me in on the deets. I do remember hearing some friends talk about it. So, I guess I'm not right. Yeah, I do know a little bit. I can't claim too much. Okay, so if you kind of heard with the drop, going from something this melodic to just straight up, where are we going? So this is where a lot of atmospherics help. Atmospherics are basically things to bring in something light. Have you ever heard of people putting in their songs? Have you ever heard of people putting in drones? Have you ever heard of people doing something like just only this? Technically, that wasn't atmospheric. It adds something melodic to it. And atmospherics can also include sounds from nature. That's what I like to do. This is the part where I say that I'm very genre fluid, because the many artists who put in elements from nature, like when they put samples from nature, they usually tend to be house artists. If you notice, I don't really produce house, especially deep house. Not many people do that. So, deep house people are known for putting in sounds from nature, like down tempo, very well known, but not so much techno or trance. I guess that's kind of where I come in when I'm blending in elements from other genres. Excuse me. One of my favorite samples is the sound of rain. Let me add in. This sounds like something very rain-esque. Rainy day. I'm only gonna add this in the second half of the drop. Carry from a break in the verses. I add it in back here, but it doesn't stay too long. No. All right. You can kind of hear it. What else do I like to have? This is me whispering. I like adding in whispering sounds. It's very fun. It makes it feel very personal. Like, cause I am personal. Teehee. That was horrible. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, let me add it somewhat over here. There we go. All right, so we added that in. What else should we add in? One more. You can never go wrong with a writing sample. And what that means is I recorded myself writing, the sound of me writing on a notebook. And you've heard this in other songs. You heard this in Rise Up. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Rise Up. Yeah, you heard that there. You have heard that in Tunnel before. You just probably didn't hear it in detail because I tend to put that at a very, very low volume because you don't want to hear it too much. Let's go off of that. I think the thing that is most pressing on my mind is I think this transition into the drop is, it's okay. The rain sample helps. How else can we do that? Let me see. Do we want to work on a bass line? Anyone voting for me to work on a bass line? Thank you so much to Snappy E4J and Guayelo Intriano, Coop Shorts. Anyone who's commenting down here, thank you so much, by the way. It means a lot to me, and I really love talking to you guys. Let's see. I think we should add a bass line. Bass lines are really fun. They're just not necessarily my strong suite. What I mean by that is I tend to be very simplistic because you want to feel the emotions. I'm not necessarily here to force you to dance. One thing I want to do with my songs is you can either dance or you can listen. You could have it in the background while taking a shower, or you can dance to it at a party. I don't want to make my songs too forceful because I feel like it can help make people feel separated from the artist. You can dance to it, but you can also sing to it. You can also relax to it. You're not forced to go to a rave to listen to it. So, unfortunately, one of my weak suites is bass lines. If anyone wants to help me with that, feel free to let me know. But I have done some work on it. This is one of my favorite ones. I made a sound, bleh, it's called Naughty. One place I played with a lot was this thing called the randomizer. It basically will automate a random, let's see, how do I phrase it? Modulation. Modulation is when you change something over time. Usually you can change things over time in a very strategic way, or you can have this randomizer modulate that for you, meaning it will change it for you. Let's try that, shall we? All right, I will also go off of the piano sound, meaning that they will follow the same scale. Do. That's a bass line. It's not my strong suite because you can either dance or you can relax. I don't want to force you too many directions. Let's see. I'm gonna keep it like that, honestly. I will build that bass line up a little bit more, just not necessarily right now. Nah, actually, I'm not really liking this sound. Let me change that. I have an idea. You know how we heard that pattern that went like, why don't I make the bass line like that? That would be awesome. Yes, let's do that. To kind of go off of everything. This is a very pluck-like sound. No, come on. There we go. Then everything will get copied. Now, how does that sound? There's energy. Wait. Okay, and then there is this part. I like this. I like this so much. All right, I like that. Let me add this into the second draw. I feel like this is really going somewhere. Everything. See what the hi-hats are coming in? The hi-hats are adding in the energy, the surprise. All right, and there's piano in there too. You can't really hear it, but you can. You know what actually would also help a lot with energy? We're making a lot of piano sounds and everything. What if we had something similar come in as a pad? All right. I like it when things play off of each other like that. Now, what are some of my favorite pad sounds? Oh, I'm not sure if you got to hear this part of the song yet. I've seen that one person came on. I like that. So we're gonna go back in, we're gonna make a pad. So I will sometimes rely on samples. I think I'm gonna rely on a sample for this pad. So I have a sample pack in which I can take these sounds I like that one. I take this one, I'm gonna go here. I'm going to delete this. Oh, that's a lot of muddiness. That's not the greatest. Let me replace that with Vital. Let me take one of these guys. How about this one? So then I can add this in here. No, how about this? Let's add this here.